Electrocast.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Tap the banner or visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
And today we're talking a movie from 2026, a new release currently saving cinemas, Project Hail Mary.
Iris, go.
So I saw Project Hail Mary in the theater, live in the flesh with other people. And you know the scene where Ryan Gosling's Dr. Gray's character gets pinned up against the control panel and his seat and the gravity are like crushing him and it's the victorious moment where what's his face? Rocky decides he's gonna save him, and it's like all heroic, but it's chaotic, and for some reason the sound cuts out. Why does the sound cut out?
Well, because his ears are pressed up against the thing. Ironically, he's touching all the controls and yet can't touch the control he needs to zero out the spin.
Right. I thought he had to like fight all of the G's to push a button, but no, it turned out he had to like open a compartment and then pull down a lever, which he never would have been able to do in his debilitated state. So that scene happened in the theater at exactly 9 p.m. Do you know how I know that it happened exactly at 9 p.m.?
Because your medicine alert on your phone alarm went off?
How did you know?
All loud, and people are like holding their breath?
Because my medication reminder alarm went off at the exact moment that all sound cuts out in the middle of Project Hail Mary. When you can hear a pin drop in the entire theater. It was just a soft, vibrating buzzing, but I knew it wasn't a phone call, and therefore I knew it wouldn't stop until I shut it off. So there I am in the most stressful, heroic moment of the entire film, fishing through my bag, trying to turn my medicine alarm off. I am so sorry to everybody in that theater.
See, this is exactly why I need you, because I'm just too close to this one. I've read it 3.5 times, every word of it out loud, and because I have to go over parts that Kelly fell asleep for, I've probably read this book closer to 5 times. So we're at the part right now where he just comes to the revelation that there is definitely an alien life form on the blip A next to him, and he swears for the only time in the book. And I remember saying, this is absolutely safe for the girls to read after Holes or as an alternative to Disney's Holes. And despite reading it this many times, I said those words out loud, and she was like, he didn't say that. And I was like, how many times have we read that? And she's like, yeah, but he didn't say that. And I was like, come look. And I insisted she roll over and look at the Kindle.
He doesn't say it in the movie.
Nope, doesn't, which makes it safe, except for a little bit of blood, I guess, and some thematic tension. Otherwise, good for families, right?
Yeah. I wondered if you actually had recommended this book for the girls because he doesn't curse?
Yeah. And the science would be kind of heady, but like a bedtime book, which is how we treat it, it would just lull them to sleep or into a state of serenity and tranquility.
So yes, he doesn't curse, and I thought it was really funny in the book when he's trying to understand who he is, and he's like, why did I say gosh darn it? That's weird. Am I religious? But I think it's because he's a teacher, right?
I think it's because he's a teacher and he's become accustomed to censoring himself.
Gotcha. And that was one of the few moments that I was really waiting for, and that didn't happen. You know what other line I really missed?
What's that?
Yes, I am scary space monster and you are wet blob.
We're not there yet for this particular reading.
Is that weird to be halfway through the book again?
It is, and she was strangely resistant to see this movie, and she said she was a little bit hesitant because she was afraid I would stop reading this book again, which is her safe space, her like comfort book, if we saw the movie.
So I think it's entirely appropriate for Dr. Grace to, what does he say when he sees Rocky for the first time?
Holy effing S.
Which that's an appropriate response for meeting an alien life form.
It is, and thus the only time that Andy Weir Ryland Grace breaks his rule.
Okay, so Ryland Grace, as portrayed by Ryan Gosling, before we get into his performance, is there anyone else that you had ever imagined in the previous readings of this? By the way, did you read this before it was even announced that it would be made into a motion picture?
Yes, we read it after. So the way it works is, oh God, we're not going to talk about this movie at all. Kindle came up, and occasionally there are Kindle deals, and we wouldn't have read The Martian except it came up as a Kindle deal for like $3, and it was at the time a big deal and a bestseller, and it's like $3, great. Read The Martian, loved it. Project Hail Mary, we read Artemis, which is next in line apparently for Lord and Miller, and then so we were eagerly anticipating his next book, Andy Weir's next book. It ended up being Project Hail Mary. This sounds lame, but we read it immediately and obviously subsequently a number of times. And so, yes, I didn't hear about the movie for a little while, but apparently Ryan Gosling read the book in galleys and then took it to Lord and Miller and is thus a producer, as is Andy Weir on this movie.
Yeah, and to Amy Pascal, which comprised pretty much a dream team for this film. But prior to being aware of Ryan Gosling's involvement, did you picture anyone else as Dr. Ryland Grace?
Probably a combination, because Kelly always makes this error. In our head, it was probably Matt Damon. Because Matt Damon was Mark Watney in The Martian. And Matt Damon, Kelly always gets confused with Mark Wahlberg, despite never having seen The Departed, in which they both star. Further complicated and compounded by the fact that Matt Damon plays a guy named Mark Watney in The Martian, whom she always calls Marky Mark Wallaby. And so probably either Matt Damon because of The Martian or Marky Mark Wahlberg.
I guess I had similar but different space references in mind, because as I was reading it, despite knowing that Ryan Gosling was going to portray the character, despite all of the key art that I had from my book copy of Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling on the cover, somehow I still always pictured Sam Rockwell.
Well, maybe he's been in a number of space movies, as has Ryan Gosling, strangely. He's become the space dude. And will continue to be.
Well, so he did First Man, which was his space movie. What other space movie did he do?
Well, he's up next for Star Wars Starfighter.
But then he also was a teacher in Half Nelson, and he had to act alongside a doll in Lars and the Real Doll.
Oh, God. A doll. That's funny.
He had a lot of experience for this role.
And he was in, Blade Runner is kind of a space movie. Actually, not at all.
I mean, sure, sci-fi. Ryan Gosling all about this movie. In the Q&A that I saw, he was that guy. You ever go to a concert and see that guy in like the same band or concert t-shirt?
The one who wears the concert t-shirt of the band that he's currently seeing in concert at their concert?
Yes. Ryan Gosling was fully that guy at the screening of Project Hail Mary. He was full on wearing a Project Hail Mary shirt and a Project Hail Mary hat.
He's proud of it. He's promoting his own brand, I guess, and his project that he produced. Good for you, Ryan Gosling. And obviously he's, good dramatic actor. He's a good looking dude. I had concerns, but thankfully he's a normal enough dude that he can play normal school teacher Ryland Grace, who's not at all heroic and not graceful for being named Grace, and could have his signature moment where we know it's him. What is your idea of Ryan Gosling's Leonardo DiCaprio finger moment?
The squealy yelp?
which he does twice, as I recall. Doesn't he do it when Rocky taps on the glass, and then when he wakes up in the body bag or whatever?
Yes.
And falls out of bed.
Yeah, and there was also he had a new one this time. It was like the comical scream, where what's the doctor machine called?
Machine?
When the coma
Armando?
hands come at him? Yes, when Armando comes after him and he goes, ah! Is right.
It was a lot more friendly, like it was kind of Iron Man hands. I don't know, you don't watch Marvel movies, but Iron Man had that armature thing that would poke at him and help him with the suit and stuff. That was kind of cute. Like he would tell it off and it would droop its little arm in shame and stuff.
Aww.
But it was definitely scarier, and he's like watching the arms in terror when they lurch for him in the book. So he was cuter in this one, as I think everything kind of was. And Rocky was way more Rocky.
Rocky was very Rocky.
I mean, such a character. They took their time, allowed that relationship to blossom, given that they don't breathe the same air. They don't ever physically, well, that's not true. They do physically interact at one point, a very crucial point, but they don't never touch, otherwise can't inhabit the same space. And so there's, by necessity, a distance between them, a space between them that has to be overcome for them to have a bond, a real relationship. And I think the movie handled it appropriately. It's hard to know because they go through such a learning curve in the book. Can't talk about the book, have to talk about the movie. Go.
Can Rocky break through Xenonite?
I was expecting the heroic shattering kind of thing, but it seems like Rocky sealed himself back up in the ball or in his tunnel so he didn't completely die. And I think that this was PGing the movie up enough that kids wouldn't be super sad because he's probably not dead, because you can see him moving after Grace recovers enough to follow the horrible trail of soot and ash back to Rocky and find him. He's moving. And so probably he's not going to die, even though he does go dormant for a while.
Yeah, he sealed himself back up.
He didn't destroy it so much that he couldn't, in his weakened state, kind of reconstruct it.
Okay. His ball spacesuit and all of his tunnels and stuff, they're like pressurized and they've got the right atmosphere, the ammonia atmosphere.
Right.
But is it a different gravity than what's in the Hail Mary?
Not gravity, but atmospheric pressure. So it's definitely compressed at 29 times Earth's atmosphere.
How important is the science to you?
Extremely, because it's the entire obstacle. It is the friendship for sure between them, but the entire obstacle is, as Mark Watney would put it, Ryland Grace needs to science the shit out of this thing. There's no way around it. The fact that the movie could take liberties here and there with the science is where I'm concerned that if they were going to cut corners, they wouldn't. Succinct answer, extremely important, but not so much for the movie to work. And when I asked Kelly why she likes this book being read so much to her, it's because she said that the science is great for putting her to sleep, which is really frustrating because I read the science in exactly the same dramatic tone and delivery as I do all the emotional stuff. And she's just like...
Do we have any sense of how reliable the science is?
Pretty much. To give you an idea, Hank Green... someone else who read his book before it went to print said, hey, the pendulum science that he uses to determine how much gravity is actually happening initially in the book was wrong. And he was like, that's just going to have to be an error because who else is going to get this except maybe this one dude? And then he told his agent about it. And they're like, well, it's really far along in the process, but I don't think they've actually begun printing the run. So he corrected it. And I think that's the only thing, because the science is what is the entire framework of the story. The limitations is what they have to move around in and how they can find the ins and outs, really skillfully constructed in a way that's evident in all of his novels, at least so far. Artemis being maybe less, but no less that being in the backdrop.
So sometimes it feels like filler. but it's really key that it be simple enough for me to understand what the problem is and how they're solving it and what it means, I guess, for the stakes. Like, how big a stake is this? How much of a life and death situation are they in? And I can imagine to simplify the science in a way that is understandable and does motivate and propel the story must be really hard. Like, he must have an incredible handle on the science to translate it for lay people. So though it does feel like filler sometimes, it's, I agree, very important. That being said, when Phil Lord and Chris Miller boil this story down, they say it's make a friend to save the universe, which couldn't be more emotional and further from the science than possible.
And that, I think, is why it will work for the girls, why it will work for any person, because that story does exist. And you can just assume that what they're doing is not only right, morally, ethically, honorably, but scientifically and technically, logically, to get them through the situation. I feel like cheating the science would be as much of a manipulation as cheating the emotionality. And I think you would be able to feel the hollowness. I know I would have an issue with it, but I'm not far off from the layperson, other than have been in Andy Weir's world long enough that I realized that as a completely separate, albeit just as important, component.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
During Lowe's Pro Savings Days, save more on what goes into the job. Add power to your lineup with a free DeWalt 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery when you buy a select DeWalt 20-volt max tool. Plus, get up to 35% off select major appliances from Whirlpool, Maytag, and more. Get the job done right. Keep more in your pocket. That's Pro Savings Days. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/27. Selection varies by location. While supplies last.
I wondered in the theater how much people were missing. Like, wow, if I had read the book, would I have understood what that meant? Or would I have understood what just happened? But people were really engaged. Big laughs. Huge laughs. People scoffing and remarking. People just like delighting in Sandra Hüller's performance as Stratt. And they seemed to be getting that more than I was. So maybe it's like you get the joy and the surprise and the delight from the newness that I seemed to miss, but whereas I felt like I had the comprehension and I had a lot of backstory and maybe even I clung to a little bit of science to really help me understand a lot better what was happening.
I was hoping, it's hopeful more than anything, that what they did was, rather than change the science, a few things were changed, probably most notably the ending and Stratt herself. I was really hoping that they were just lifting big chunks rather than smoothing, dumbing it down, changing it. We never addressed the fact that they eat completely different foods, and thus Grace wouldn't be able to survive with any of the food that would be provided for him there.
So in both the book and the movie, Grace's memory of turning Stratt down, saying that he won't go on the mission, that memory surfaces at the time that he needs to make a decision about going to save Rocky. But they're handled very differently. I think in the movie he's in the tunnel and he's having that memory and he's already chosen to save Rocky. I might be wrong on that, but I think it comes almost simultaneously with the decision to save Rocky. There isn't a lot of time in that third act for him to debate whether he's going to save Rocky or save Earth. It seemed much more inevitable in the film that he would choose Rocky, which didn't seem as obvious to me in the book until after. Sorry, there's endless comparisons. Whereas in the book, he really has to agonize over the decision, and it's such an important moment for his character to choose to be heroic, to choose to do something that was hard and that didn't put his self-interest first. Maybe there was a logic to it. Maybe there was just a logic to save 2 planets versus 1, but it didn't seem as clear-cut in the book.
I found that experience to be true for a lot of the movie. And again, so I'm not sure how well this was relayed, but you're a big fan of openings, and there's nothing better than the opening of Project Hail Mary, where you're literally thrown into the deep end, in this case, the deep end of space, and you have no clue. He has no clue what's going on, and it is a really long time before any of us know what's going on, but that is where the device pays off most. Him making that decision, and in the book, at least, prefacing this decision with Ryland Grace is anything but a hero. He is a coward and afraid by his own admission, and chooses to save himself, even though he knows it won't save him, that he will die along with everyone else if he doesn't go. He says, I can't do it. It's not in me. And to play those moments opposite each other in the book or in the movie, where he then makes the decision to sacrifice himself, knowing he won't be able to survive, not just because of he won't have enough astrophage to get home, even though it was gifted to him. He has to make the choice to go in Rocky's direction and Arid's direction or home, in the book, compounded by the fact that he has no hope of ever generating enough food to sustain himself, is a big factor. If he goes to Rocky, he will die. Earth won't die, and if he doesn't, Rocky and Arid in its entirety will die. So it's a big moment for him to be able to play that revelation with his decision is crucial for the movie, and to be able to put those back to back, scene-wise, I think would have been important. Like Rocky surviving also seemed a little bit like an inevitability, and I could not tell if it was because they didn't want to terrorize young viewers by making him unsympathetic. Stratt likewise was softened, and I really like what the movie did with her character to make her more likable. Because if anything, she seemed cold and remote and not at all complex in the book. At least that's how I read her or portrayed her. But I found myself reading every little smile and every little crinkly eyes, Did you get a sense of affection or even potentially romance in the movie?
I did, especially at the bar. And I was definitely waiting for the moment where the astronauts confront Grace and they're like, so you guys are sleeping together, right? And he's like, what? No, is that what you guys think? And then he looks at the other astronauts and they all avert their eyes. I was really waiting for that moment. So instead of going there, they flirted with them flirting. And maybe there was enough just kind of awareness of their situation that was never acted upon. But there was genuine affection there, whether it was sexual tension or if it was platonic affection. I guess didn't really matter because they were all going to die. And they were all there in service of the mission, or at least Stratt was. And then she forced Dr. Grace to be on board. But what an amazing message for this film and for this story. That if you simply believe that you're a hero, that you can be one. Like he's like, I'm here. I must be here for a reason. I must have chosen to do this. And so he acted accordingly. And then for him to get the realization that he was forced and sent against his will was such a great revelation.
And does that qualify as manifest destiny?
You mean the idea that I must be a hero because I'm here?
Right.
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, yeah.
And so Stratt probably the opposite of that, who is set to do a job and is in power because she's capable of making the hardest of hard decisions, and does so accordingly in what still feels to me calculated and cold, which is probably why in the book I didn't feel a trace of romance. I asked Kelly Ray, did you get a sense of chemistry between them in the book? And she said kinda a little bit, but I think it's possible Grace was too dumb to realize it, the character in the book, but I didn't get that at all. And so when she makes the decision, she makes a really hard decision in absence of certainty. She says that she believes she sees something different, something more in him than he sees himself, but she doesn't know that for sure, and sends him to his death in the hopes of her best analytical guess. The numbers suggest he is the best shot at replacing Dubois and being the science officer on the mission. Still a really tough call. And I think her saying, that, I think this is why you won't understand what I have to do. And she watches the team close in on him and restrain him. He didn't do the scream when he goes down in that. But, it's sad. She's genuinely saddened. And I kind of expected there to be a shot where he's out cold, being loaded into the spacecraft, where she leans over and kisses him on the forehead or something, thank you and I'm sorry. And then maybe just to show that she's not playing favorites, she would kiss the other two saviors and heroes on the head as well. But nothing like that.
Stratt says in the book, contrary to what you might believe, something to this effect, I like you, Dr. Grace, like I actually like you. And maybe that's the closest that we get to a hint of romance. But I must be some kind of cold-hearted logician, because I would have made the same decision that Stratt made. I'm so cold that I was like, really? With the space burial? Like, what if you need those jumpsuits? What if
we're burning time. We only have so much screen time, and you're not going to focus on other key elements of the science in the book, but you're going to focus on the jettisoning of.
I get it. It's emotional, but I'm thinking practically speaking, like, what if you need those photos for kindling? What if you need those extra jumpsuits for when you ruin your current jumpsuit uniform? Like, you are jettisoning potentially really important equipment.
What are you, made of stone? What are you, Rocky? This is all about the humanity. This is all about sacrificing yourself for other people, sacrificing screen time for the human element, even though they've been dead for years. Taking that time, and if you're opening the hatch to jettison them, you're still taking a risk.
That's what I'm saying.
But they went headlong into this movie by preserving, he allowed himself to have an emotional moment, and he's surrounded by astrophage. Fine. That's what it's all about, man, because it can't just be dour science.
They have their little party and stuff, and Rocky's wearing his fancy clothes, and a lot of good human moments with the alien, which is so funny and ironic to say. I wanted to ask you about realism in the performances, but then I thought, is that even possible? Is it even possible to talk about realistic performances between Dr. Grace and Rocky?
Yes. Let's give some credit that Rocky was played by a dude. His lead, I love it. I love it that that Ryan Gosling referred to him as a Rocketeer.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because he's a practical puppet. James Ortiz.
Okay.
He was the heart and soul of the puppet, I guess. And also, I think he was temp voice to have someone for Ryan Gosling to play off of, and then eventually became the voice. And I always love that stuff, where what seems temp ends up being just because you can't get away from it. I'm trying to think of the other thing that was such a good example of, we kept that temp, and then that just became the voice.
Yeah, yes, there have been plenty of other examples, I think, that we've discussed at orwhatevermovies.com, wherever you get podcasts. What I loved about the Rocky story, Lord and Miller talked about being on set with James Ortiz and his team, and they also had this really astute point that all meetings that happen on set or around a film are story meetings. There isn't like a specific story meeting, but any meeting between departments is essentially, when it comes down to it, a story meeting. And so they were having a story meeting with the Rocketeers, I guess. And James Ortiz, they said, was like, yeah, no, Rocky wouldn't do that. Yeah. Like, he was so in this character's mindset that he had the ability to say what Rocky would and wouldn't do, and they took it. Like, the fact that he had him boiled down was hilarious. Another thing that you have to tell me what your experience was like with this, because after reading the book, after seeing the movie, after going to bed, after having seen the movie, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I thought to myself, Adrian. That's why he called Rocky's mate Adrian.
Yes. Welcome to Movie Connections 101.
How long did it take you to make that connection?
No, I'm sorry. I made it in the book. Because he's like, what would Rocky's mate be named? Obviously Adrian. And they handed you that on a silver platter when he was watching part of Rocky as like his Earth education in his movie dome, in his Cinerama dome.
Oh.
That's not,
I think I missed that.
That's not my revelation. I have a similar revelation that I got from research that I did afterwards. So what's the name of the ship?
The Hail Mary?
And who's the only inhabitant of that ship?
Dr. Grace.
That it is, in fact, the Hail Mary full of grace? Never got that?
I mean, the religious, the iconography I always got, but not the full rosary.
I did not. And then that was my eye-rolling moment where it was like, that should have been obvious, and yet for years now, I never made that connection. I feel like the movie, all this compression of story or whatever, and just we're keeping things rolling. I was like, they didn't even say why he just started referring to it as astrophage. And she was like, no. Kelly said, no, they explained it in the movie. And I was like, they did?
They explained it after using it, after having introduced the term.
We're just going at a clip. And I really hope, and I'm glad, it seems like people are on board for the ride and that they're really enjoying it. And I have to assume that means also tracking the science to an appreciable degree. I was initially resistant to Rocky being such a character, but he was so animated and fun and so in his hamster ball. He's like, hi, Grace, what's this room for? Oh, this room is boring. And it was just like his inflection was more solid given that he had a computerized voice. So that all that worked. It was so fast, and it seemed like we were in a comfort zone with their relationship so quickly. I was initially hesitant, but I understand that you have to really accelerate things to get this in a still 2 hours and 15-minute movie.
Yeah, kind of a long movie.
I guess. I can't really tell.
I mean, it's hopefully it doesn't get overhyped. It's already pretty hyped. Best weekend of the year. Didn't Sinners come out in March of 25?
April. And Oppenheimer also, I think. Was it Oppenheimer? Anyway, Project Hail Mary and Oppenheimer are the only two original properties with no previous IP and non-sequels to make over $80 million in like the last, I don't know how many years. In their opening weekends, it's a long time.
Yeah, science.
And I love these kind of movies.
I loved that the dumb, non-photographic memory humans still had something to offer to the Iridians with radiation science and relativity and all that kind of stuff. Not that I completely understand it, but I felt some pride in humanity. And I felt a kindredness with the aliens that we now know exist.
In this movie, in this world.
But also in the universe, although we don't know too much. I was heartened by the idea of these parallel evolutions, and I was really happy for the movie to fill in gaps, especially visual ones that I had from the book.
The other revelation, which came out in the research that I did, was Andy Weir admitted when someone questioned him about the science, about the most egregious science errors or leaps in judgment he took in portraying the science, was that he said that as of 2020, when he was writing it, the book was published in May of 2021, the vast majority of the science community believed 40 Eridani was actually a planet. And it's not. Probably not. Does it break your heart that no such planet is now believed to exist in 2026?
But it was believed to exist in 2020?
Yep. They were like, well, by the data and by the obstructions to light, I guess, I think there's a planet there. And now they're like, that might have been space debris or dust or something. No 40 Eridani.
Does it burst my little planetary bubble?
No Iridians. Maybe it was destroyed like Alderaan or something, and we just don't know it yet because it's so many light years away.
What's Alderaan? Was that a little nerdy reference?
Oh my God. And that's our discussion on Project Hail Mary by the foremost authorities of science and science fiction, Wesley and Iris and Or Whatever Movies, where you can contact us and tell us about our egregious lapses in sci-fi knowledge, as Iris just demonstrated, at orwhatevermovies@gmail.com, or at our hotline, 818-835-0473. Orwhatevermovies.com for 400 plus discussions. Hey, look, we're doing new releases again. Project Hail Mary. Iris, anything else?
And we'll see you next time.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Today is working for me. Do you believe that for yourself? Hey, I'm Pastor Julie, and I want to empower you through encouragement. Inviting you to my podcast, Big Truth Encouragement, where I unpack living a faith-filled life. I created my podcast for the ladies, but gentlemen, you'll gain something too. So I invite you to listen to Big Truth Encouragement on Electricast and any platform where you listen to your podcast.
Electricast.